I sat there terrified. I didn't dare say a thing. The magnitude of what was about to happen, and its consequences were something I could not get my head around. Vanessa sat in the chair next to me wearing my baseball cap and looking at me with a look that varied between threatening and compassionate. She was relieved that she was not sitting where I was, and was not ready to let the truth out and be condemned. She knew what I was about to go through, and knew what it would do to me. She knew she was meant to be sitting there, and that she had maneuvered things so it was I who took her place. I do not know if she fully understood what this would do to me. The stylist looked over at Vanessa and said, "Don't worry, young lad. We will make sure you can get back out to play with your friends soon, and she will be much prettier when she does. You won't have to hang around with a tomboy anymore." It had all started much earlier that dreadful day. I was spending the weekend at Vanessa's house. We did this often. Vanessa, being a complete tomboy, was never into playing with any of the girls in our class, and was happier playing with us. She always had to prove she belonged playing with the boys, as most girls her age. She had developed faster than us boys at that point, and was taller and stronger than many of us. Our games and sports would often turn rough, and she would use the opportunity to show that she could overpower us, and was as strong as any of us boys. She was particularly vindictive to us whenever we suggested in some way that she should be engaged in more girly things. Her mother could never fully accept this, and made it her life's goal to, in her words, make a sweet girl out of Vanessa. There were some things that she would impose. As much as Vanessa had asked to have her hair cut short, her mother refused this and made her keep it long to the middle of her back. She wore it in a loosely formed ponytail, attached quite low and secured by the most discreet elastic she could find. For different reasons, I too found myself with hair longer than I would want. I was the youngest of 3 siblings. My mother and both my sisters had hair that was tight, curly, and always dry. Mother's frustration was evident, even though she tried to not make it apparent. It was a surprise to my mother when I was born with straight, shiny hair with thick strands and a natural volume that made her and my sisters jealous. She never let me cut it short like the other boys. She said it would be a crime to do so. Vanessa and I both suffered with the penance of this long hair, and felt it did not belong on us. Unlike me, though, she was never teased about it by our friends. It was normal for a girl to have hair that long. It was she who felt it did not belong to her. For me, though, it was a source of much teasing and bullying. Both the girls and boys teased me about my girly hair. My mother just said they were jealous. The fact that she would brush it with dozens of strokes every morning before school so it shone and showed its volume did not help. I always carried an elastic in my pocket to tie it up when I got to school, as she would not let me tie it into a low pony at home. This weekend, Vanessa's mother seemed to have had enough of her tomboyish tendencies. I had seen some of these attitudes before. A few months ago, she had pulled Vanessa up from the ground as we were playing Legos and dragged her to her room. I heard some shouting and tears, but knew I should not intervene. A little later, Vanessa came back wearing a sundress and carrying a doll. Her eyes were red, and she stared at the ground with a mixture of shame and anger. Her mom told me that it was time that she dressed like the little girl she was, and played like that too. She told me I could keep on playing Legos if I wanted, but that she had to play with her doll. I felt sorry for her, and as embarrassing as it seemed, I joined her in her Barbie play. I tried to be nice and tell her she looked very pretty. She looked at me with a piercing, angry look, and said she did not want to look pretty, and that if I liked the dress so much I should wear it. I went silent. Both because I felt sorry for her, but also because I truly feared her offer was a true threat and that she was strong enough to see it through. But like I said before, this morning it was clear she had had enough for some reason. We had been out playing soccer late the night before, and come back into the house trailing mud. Vanessa had managed to trade her light lavender My Little Pony shirt for a very cool white t-shirt with an image of our favorite arcade game Street Fighter. Some poor boy who lost an arm wrestle he was sure to win went home in her My Little Pony shirt, had hung low in shame as he walked through the mall. From there we went out to play soccer and were caught in the rain. When we got home her mother exploded when she saw us. "You look like a savage boy. What is that awful t-shirt that you are wearing? Why are you covered in mud? Why can you not come back from the mall with a nice new earring, or skirt or anything else a girl your age should go to the mall for? I have had it with you. You are not a boy, and need to stop behaving like one." We were sent unceremoniously to bed after a long shower. This morning when she got us out of bed it was clear that there was some change in the horizon. Her mother apologized to me that today would not be a fun day for me, but that she needed to do something about all this. I sat there in silence not knowing what to do. "Vanessa, I have a game of golf away this weekend that I cannot cancel, so I trust that you will do as I tell you. I have called Jessica at my salon that you have never accepted to set foot in and told her to expect you. She is going to finally give you a proper girl's hairstyle. You are almost 13 now and it is about time. You are the only girl in your class who does not have a proper hairstyle. You are to go there at 10 a.m. sharp. You are not to complain." I have told her what I want done. I have also told her that if you do not show up, she is to call me. I do not plan to be home until tomorrow night, so if I get a call from her and find out that you kicked up a fuss, that you refused anything or worse, that you did not show up, I will come back home and you will not like what you have coming. Priscilla will be over at 6 to spend the night with you both and make sure everything is okay. She proceeded to tell me she was sorry that she had to do this on a weekend that I was staying over, but she promised she would bring us both a small gift from her weekend trip, and that once her salon appointment was done, we would be able to come home and play. Vanessa was in tears. She tried to argue with her mother to no avail. She asked her mother what Jessica was going to do to her hair, and her mother refused to tell her. "You'll find out when you get there, and when you look in the mirror and finally see a beautiful girl staring back at you." She left the house with a small overnight bag and her golf clubs. Vanessa broke down crying. She was inconsolable, and I just did not know what to do or say. That is when, while trying to do the right thing, I sealed my fate by saying the one thing I should not have said. "It really is okay, Vanessa, it's only a hairstyle and I am sure it will look lovely, plus my mom and my sisters always talk about how wonderful it is to have your hair done in a salon. I am sure you will love it." She stared at me with an anger I had never seen in my friend's eyes. I could not tell that moment if she hated me, the circumstances she was in, or both. She jumped at me and punched me in the stomach, hard. I gasped for air and had trouble taking any in. She hit me again, this time on my side, by my kidney since I had turned away in a panic. "Only a hairstyle? Do you think I want to look like a girly girl? Do you think I want that humiliation? Do you think I want to sit there while they make me all girly? You just don't get it. Maybe you are saying that because that is what you wish would happen to you. Maybe that's why you walk around with that long hair." I was in tears and told her that she knew that was not true. She knew that my mom forced that on me, and that it was terrible for a boy. Terrible for a boy, but okay for me? "You know what, I think you do want this with all that talk about how much your sisters enjoy this. I think you really want this." I was silent. I was hurting badly where she had punched me. My ego was hurting from the things she said, and I still somehow felt bad for her. She was silent for a minute too. I thought she was regretting what she did, but it turns out she was thinking. Jessica does not know who I am, she said, and paused, her eyes looking up as if to follow her chain of thought. Mother would have never shown her any pictures of me. I am sure she hates the fact that I always look so boyish. She is expecting a tomboy walking in with her long-haired friend. She is expecting me to look like I do not want to be there. She is expecting me to be scared. She paused again and looked right at me. Do you know who else would look exactly like that? I did not know what to say. I sat there in silence. You. You would look exactly like that. You and your long hair and a low boy ponytail would look every bit as terrified as me, and she would never know. She would not have to call my mom, because she would believe she had done to me what she was asked to do, and you will have learned that it is not just a hairstyle. You will learn what it is like when someone tries to make a girl out of you. I told her she was crazy. I told her I would never do it. She grabbed my arm and twisted it behind my back, hard. It was painful and I could do nothing about it. She asked me if those punches hurt. She told me she had plenty more where those came from. She told me I was doing this, and that I could choose now how much more pain I needed before I said yes. I told her she was crazy. She was out of her mind, and while she was still holding my arm behind my back, she kneed me in the stomach. I gasped again. She told me she was not joking. I was to be Vanessa today, and she was going to be Paul. She then let go and I collapsed to the floor. I could not understand what was happening. What had led my friend to do this? I still did not believe she would do what she was saying she would do, but I did not understand what she was doing. I did not understand what anger, humiliation, and fear had done to her. It had created a monster, and I was somehow in its path. In her mind, sitting me in that chair was the only way to keep it from happening to her. I again tried to argue that by tomorrow her mom would see that it had not happened to her, but to me. She would not really listen. She said it would give her time to think things through. She said that the blowout, or whatever it is they were going to do, should wash out by tomorrow anyway. Neither she nor I knew quite how wrong that statement was. She looked up at the clock and told me to get up. It was time to get ready. I begged her again, and she pinched my ear and twisted it, asking if she needed to remind me again. We were both dressed in jeans with a white Rock Band t-shirt on. We both had our hair in a low loose ponytail, just like any other day. She closed the door behind us as we left the house. The click of the door behind us had a fatalistic sound. Every step further along this absurd situation made me feel more terrified. I turned around and tried to head back to the house. She pulled me forward. I told her I would tell Jessica the truth. She froze in her tracks. She looked me in the eyes and said, "Do you know what would have hurt more than everything I did to you already?" I nodded, saying nothing. "I could have kicked you in the balls. I don't have any, but I hear it's pretty bad. You just try to say anything to Jessica about this, or anything else that will get me in trouble, and I will kick you in the balls so we can both find out how bad it is." I was terrified. Simply terrified. We walked slowly. Every step seemed like a stab in my pride. I could not believe what was about to happen. There was a part of me that was hoping that this was just Vanessa's way of being funny. That when we got there the truth would come out. We said nothing else to each other as we walked the longest 5 blocks I had walked that far in my life. Little did I really appreciate how walking these same 5 blocks back would feel so much longer and so much more terrifying. She was relentless in her march, but it seemed that my friend was still in there somewhere. She tried to comfort me. "It is not like they will do anything permanent. My mom has styled my hair before at home." She will blow it out, and the brush tugs a little, the noise is annoying, and you do feel silly, but when you next shower it will be gone. It'll just be worse for you than it was for me because it will be in a beauty parlor and not at home. It will look prettier. There was nothing about her words that were comforting. I never thought anything would be irreversible, at least nothing more than the wound in my pride. She added, as a spiteful last comment, "Better you than me." I am sorry, but I'm stronger than you, and I am definitely not doing this. We got to the block where the salon was. The outside was all glass. Inside I could see all the ladies sitting in the chairs. There was not a man or boy to be seen in a chair. Some men worked there, but they all had short and manly hair. I started to feel ill as I thought of what would happen to me, basically behind a pane of glass facing the street. The humiliation I was about to experience could not be more public. My eyes were watering. I turned to Vanessa one last time. "Please, Vanessa, please. You cannot do this to me. I cannot get a girl's hairstyle. It's not fair." She looked sternly at me and told me she felt it was not fair to her either. And that she was not going to go through that. If I wanted to fight it off again, we could do it. What has happened here is not fair. Someone has decided that a girly hairstyle is going to happen today. I just decided that the weakest of us gets to be the girl. It's just the way nature made us. I was fighting a losing battle, so just went quiet. We crossed the street and walked slowly to the door. She looked at me, grabbed my hand, and said, "Don't worry, Samuel, you'll be okay. Just don't let her know what is happening and take what's coming bravely. It will be a lot less bad than a kick in the balls." She squeezed my hand so hard that I felt my knuckles roll over each other. She added a final, "Sorry my mom did this to you." To me. She said her mom did this to me. Her mom did this to her. She did it to me. I wanted to scream. I wanted to run. I wanted to be man enough to say, "Let's fight then. You are the girl. You are getting the girly hairstyle." But instead, I bowed my head, used the hand she was not squashing to dry the tears from my eyes, and let her pull me in. We got in and were greeted by a young girl with the coolest braid. Her hair had mixed strands of dark and blonde hair, and her braids seemed to start at her forehead and go all the way to the middle of her back. The mixed colors made it look amazing. I was looking at everyone in fear. What was going to happen to me? I feared I would end up with the hairstyle of every woman and girl in there. The girl looked at Vanessa and said, "Hi sweetie, I am Andrea. Are you Vanessa?" She acted shocked and angry and said, "No, I am Samuel. This is Vanessa," pointing at me. "I am her friend and am staying over this weekend." She looked embarrassed and apologized to Vanessa. She explained that she was expecting an unruly tomboy, and so she did not think it would be the surest of the two of us. "Don't worry," she continued, "we will find you something to do while we make your girlfriend pretty for you. Would you like that?" Vanessa nodded with a smile. "Okay, Vanessa," she said, looking straight at me. "I'll take you over to Jessica. Don't cry, honey, it's going to be okay. You cannot keep looking like a boy forever. We will make you look pretty. You will like it in the end, I am sure." I was frozen and could not follow her. My stomach was churning. Vanessa came up behind me and poked a finger hard into the middle of my lower back. It was just painful enough for me to know that I had no choice. We walked up to a pretty lady in her mid-20s. She was tall and had wavy red hair that was impeccably styled. She was beautiful. "Oh, Vanessa, look at you, girl. You look just like a boy. What are you wearing? Look, you look almost as boyish as your friend here. No wonder your mom is so upset. We are going to fix that, my darling." Sit here in my chair so we can see what we are going to do. She looked at Vanessa, who was training behind me, and said, "Oh, you poor boy, this is really no place for a boy. You must be hating having to be here. This place is all about us girls becoming pretty. You must feel so out of place. Your girlfriend here belongs in here, but not you. Do you want to go and play in the arcade across the street while I pretty up your princess?" I looked at Vanessa with a greater look of desperation. I am not sure if I wanted her to leave me there alone. Would it give me a chance to tell the truth? I felt I hated her even more at that point. She, the real girl, was going to be playing with the boys in the arcade, while I was going to be sitting here being made into a girl. Amazingly, Vanessa answered that she knew I was scared because I had never been made to look pretty before, and that she would have the patience to wait in here and see me get pretty for her. She said it was a sacrifice she could make as a boy, to make up for the sacrifice I was making to look good for her. Oh my God, how sweet, you really are a charmer. I am going to make her extra pretty for you. My eyes started watering again. Oh, my girl. That's enough. You are not a boy, and it is time that you look like a girl. Stop crying, I am not cutting your hand off or something. Vanessa laughed at that, just a little. I am a boy, I thought, I am, and you are taking that away from me. Jessica obviously heard her chuckle, and said, I know, right, the way she is acting you would have thought I was doing this to a real boy. This made her laugh even more. She was getting into this, and said, Do you ever work with boys? Oh honey, of course not. This place is for ladies and girls, and what I will be doing to this princess today would be ridiculous for a boy. It would break his ego. He would never feel like a man again, can you imagine? She didn't laugh this time. I tried to get up from the chair. Jessica pushed me back down, and told me not to doubt for 1 second that I would call her mom and send me home. I knew what that meant. It meant trouble for Vanessa, which meant she would kick me in the balls, probably several times, until her mom got home. Now apologize to me, and ask me to make you pretty. I could not believe she was asking me to do that. She walked around the front of the chair and stared at me. I knew I had no choice. With a slight sob I whispered, I am sorry, Miss Jessica. She kept looking at me. After a couple of seconds she said, and, Can you please make me look pretty? I was broken. And she had not even started. That is when she started telling me what she was going to do to me. Sweetie, your dark hair is really pretty, and has a lot of volume, but your mom thinks it needs to pop a little more. She has told me that I can dye the top layer a very light blonde. You are going to love being a blonde. They boys will be all over you. What is especially nice is that we will leave your hair dark underneath, a little like Andrea up front. That will be the end of you being confused with a boy. The 2 colors will make it clear that you spent the time to be feminine and had it colored. I will also make sure you get some nice bangs. They are so in fashion now, and that way you will not be able to put all your hair back away from you like you are doing now, and hide your hairstyle. Your mom will get you to look like a girl finally. At this point she pulled the elastic of my hair and started running her hand through it. I will make sure I get some layers in here to keep its shape. Today we will give you a nice blowout, and your mom came by here today and dropped off the most gorgeous barrettes I have seen with some crystal ribbons on them. I'll make sure I use them in your style so you can feel as feminine as possible. I looked in terror at Vanessa. This is when she looked at me with a look of compassion. She realized only now that she had sent me down an irreversible road. This wasn't going to just wash off in the shower. She was condemning me to look like a girl. The only thing I could hope for was that my mom would let me shave my head when this all came to light. Vanessa also knew that backing out now would get her into too much trouble. I do not know what her plan was for tomorrow. I do not think she knew. Please, Miss Jessica, don't do this to me. Please. Nonsense, she said. Your mom and I agree on what I need to do to make you look like a girl, and not a tomboy. I went into a defensive mode. Do we really need the color and the bangs? Can't you just style it? I looked at her pleadingly. Desperate times called for desperate measures. I never thought I would ask to have my hair styled, but the alternative seemed unimaginable. What? So you can just wash it out in the shower and go back to looking like a boy? No, sweetie. That is not what your mother wants. You are going to look like a girl today, tomorrow, on Monday when you go to school, and every day after that. Oh, my God, school. No, not school. How could I ever? I would never live this down. The kids would mock me so badly. I would never get a girlfriend. I would never have friends. Vanessa sat silently in her chair. She looked scared about the whole thing. She looked sorry for me, but she looked relieved that she dodged this bullet. I looked at her with a final desperate plea. She did not know what to say, but knew she needed to stay in character. Oh well, Vanessa, it will be okay. You'll have the prettiest hair in the class. The girls will be jealous. I am just glad I do not need to go through that. Jessica laughed. My God, of course not, Samuel. Of course not, unless you want me to put some curls in that pretty hair of yours. She laughed so hard. Can you imagine that, making a boy all girly? She said, looking at Andrea, who was just walking past. You silly boy, you know I am joking, right? I wished she was joking. She had no idea she was about to do a lot worse to a boy. Okay, sweetie, let's get started here. Andrea is going to take you over to wash and condition that hair so that I can work with it while I go and mix your new color. I'll see you in a minute. I looked at Jessica as her sentence trailed off, but my mind was already distant. I was overwhelmed and afraid. Looking back on it all, this is perhaps when I should have finally put a stop to it all and called Vanessa out on her charade. This is where I should have faced up to her. This is where I could have stopped this in its tracks. This is where I should have been man enough. You do not know what that means until you have the man pulled out of you. I guess I was afraid. I guess I was shocked. I guess maybe I thought I would just cut it all off once this humiliation was over. Maybe I thought that the worst of it would be Vanessa teasing me about it when we got back to her place. I could not have foreseen where this would lead. Andrea moved in behind me and put her hand on my shoulder. Okay girl, let's get the show moving. Princesses don't just get beautiful by standing there. It takes work and we've got to take that first step. I couldn't. I sat there. I just did not know what to do. Come on, sugar. My eye caught the look on Vanessa's face. It clearly let me know I had no choice. I heard Jessica in the background asking if I was giving Andrea any trouble and if she needed to call my mom. I slowly got up from the chair. Andrea walked ahead of me as I dragged my feet behind. Washing my hair with Andrea, it turns out, was a pleasant experience. She massaged my scalp and I tried to let it relax me. I found I had to close my eyes though. As she looked down at me, I could see what Jessica meant about how feminine it was to have layers of blonde hair over dark ones below. It is not that her color was ugly or unkempt, much the opposite, it was quite stunning. The fact was though that this strong contrast was just not natural. It made it so obvious that it had been colored. It made it obvious that she had made a choice and taken the time to look that pretty, that she had spent time in a place like this to do that. My stomach sank as I looked up at her and slowly let it dawn on me that I would have that same color on my hair, and that people would believe that is what I wanted to do. As if on cue, Andrea started talking about it. So I heard Miss Jessica saying that you are going for a shadow blonde like mine. I just love it. I was watching one of the episodes of Big Bang Theory and realized just how girly Penny's hair looked, especially in that episode. That contrast between the bottom layers and the top layers just screamed grown-up girl to me. I had to do it. She wasn't helping me feel better, of course, but she thought she was. Of course, there is a lot of maintenance to it, but I don't mind that. I like the girly pampering here, and I like people to see that I care about looking like this when they see me. I love curling it. The two tones seem to exaggerate the curls. You'll find you will be doing it all the time. Do you own a curling iron? The statements rolled into each other as they do when girls get excited with these things. I stared at her blankly on that last one though. The answer was so plainly a no that I could not bring myself to answer. I could not see this through her prism. Sweetie, Earth to Princess. Do you have your own curling iron? I managed to utter a no. This triggered a, oh my God, sweetie, what have you been doing all this time? How are the boys ever going to notice you? Why would I want them to owe the misery of all this? She was finally done, and I was happy to not need to hear any of this anymore. Andrea walked me over to the chair and draped a pink cape over me. Vanessa was still sitting there. She was reading a Spider-Man comic that Jessica had brought her, with a hoodie pulled over her head. She looked like a bored teen boy. I guess I was staring at the comic when Jessica came back. Andrea, can you get her something to read, please? She is going to be here for a while whilst the color takes and I style her hair. I thanked her for that with the most enthusiasm I had worked out recently. I figured that I would try to lose myself in the comic and pretend this was not happening. Andrea came back with a copy of a teen girl magazine and something else in her hand. Here you go, gorgeous. This magazine has a great article about how to safely curl your hair without burning it or yourself, and I brought you my spare curling iron. You can keep it. I can't believe you did not have one yet. I am so happy to give you your first curling iron. You will discover in the article that there are many thicknesses to these and even some different shapes to create different looks, but you will be able to practice many of the looks with this one that I have given you before you go out and get another one. I must have looked like a deer stunned by headlights. I could not react. Well, thank her, you silly girl, Vanessa said from behind her comic. It was very nice of her to give you something that will help keep you looking pretty. My eyes shot daggers at Vanessa, but it did not last long. Her stare back at me was terrifying. Thank you, I said, almost in a whisper. Vanessa kept staring at me and it was getting more frightening. I knew it had to sound more genuine before I felt the consequences later. Thank you for this gift. I need to learn to use it though, I managed to say, a little louder than before, adding deeply to my humiliation. It was just enough to diffuse the tension between Vanessa and I. Before the color though, I want to get it cut so we can get the color in just the right places for maximum effect. I looked at her pleadingly. Oh, come on now. You know I am not going to make it short. You want that girly length in there. I am just going to cut some layers into it, shape the back a little more feminine and give you those gorgeous bangs we were talking about. I felt sick and I did not even know what layers were, but knew it was not going to be good. I started to get up from the chair. I was ready to stop this. I had decided I needed to, that is until I felt a sharp pain in my ear. Jessica had pinched and twisted my ear and held it twisted as I sat back down. Your mom said I would need to do that. I did not believe her. But believe me, I can do a lot worse if you don't let me do my job. I sat there in pain, one very red ear and another white ear in the mirror, and a look of mixed fear and dread. She started what seemed to be random cuts into my hair all around, some high, some low, and strangely my hair seemed to take on some volume and a different shape. Vanessa was looking at me most fascinated. She spent a long time behind me cutting the ends, pulling my hair taut and checking her work. All the while I was looking at this and thinking, this is not so bad. I can still brush this into a ponytail and it'll be okay. Well, that did not last. She took a little plastic bottle and sprayed the front of my hair as she combed it forward and towards my chin. She took a comb and very precisely drew a straight line about a 1/4 inch behind my hairline and combed that back. She did the same vertically on each side and combed that behind my ears, leaving just a curtain of hair across my face. Now hold still, this is where I cut the last bit of boy look out of your hair, just like your mom wants. I panicked and jumped up from the chair as she approached me with the scissors. She grabbed and twisted my ear harder than before. She made sure she grabbed the one that was already sore. I let out a high-pitched shriek which did nothing to reinforce whatever manliness I may have thought I had. I sat back down and she threatened to tie your little tush to that chair if you do that again. She went on to mutter that she could not believe she had to do this to a teen and that I was acting more like I was a 5-year-old and that she nearly cut me with the scissors. And then, just like that, she cut across somewhere above the level of my eyebrows a straight blunt cut. It felt like she was cutting the last bit of boy out of me. I know they look a little short, sweetie, but your mom wants to make sure you cannot grab your bangs in your ponytail so that they are always there no matter what you do. I felt sick. Really sick. I looked in the mirror and at this point I realized how feminine this looked, and I did not even have the color or the style. My only chance would be to cut my hair short, and my mom had never let me cut it in the past, would she now? Oh God, I finally realized, my mom. What was she going to say? What did I do? And Vanessa's mom, was I going to be in trouble with her too? At this point I felt Jessica start sectioning off my hair and twisting each section into a mini bun above my head until only the lowest strands of my hair were loose. And I had a whole bunch of little knots above my head. These bottom layers just get a bit of color, more towards their tips, Jessica said as she added some foil below a section and brushed on the foulest smelling thing I have had near me in a long time, then folded over the foil. She did this all the way around my hair before releasing a new section from the mini buns. You see, sweetie, as we move up we add the dye to a larger section of the hair and also higher up towards the root. This went on for a while. The teen magazines sitting on my knees with the headline "Curls are for girls." And the boys thank us for them, and a picture of a girl with wavy hair walking past 3 strong teen boys smiling at her. Sometime near the middle as I sat there with a bunch of little foil envelopes hanging from my hair and this magazine clearly visible on my lap with my curling iron next to it was when I noticed Vanessa taking pictures with her phone. I was about to shout for her to stop when Jessica said, "Oh, what a great idea. You can take photos throughout the process that way her mom and feel like she was here." To which Vanessa enthusiastically replied, "While I was just thinking of showing her friends how the magic happened," Vanessa said with a giggle. "Oh, of course, young lad. You must be in shock of what us girls go through just to look pretty for you boys." "I suppose so," Vanessa said, still in character, never an issue for her tomboyish self. "But it is interesting, I guess," she added. "Here, do you want to try?" Jessica asked, looking at Vanessa, who recoiled in horror. Jessica laughed. "Oh no, honey, I do not mean try the dye in your hair. We would not do that to a boy. I meant try applying the dye to your friend's hair, that way you can feel you played a part in finally making her look girly." Oh, the irony. And so it went that Vanessa actually joined in. She was given some gloves and instructed on how to add the dye to my hair. As she started to apply this to a strand near my ear, she leaned in and said quietly in my ear, "You are doing great there, can't wait to see how pretty you are going to look." And my eyes watered again. Oh honey, I know that dye is very strong. It gets to my eyes too. We will get it out as soon as we can. She took over again and Vanessa went back to her chair and her comic book. All right. We are done here. Now we just need to give that dye some time to work its way in. I think this would be a good time for you to read through that article and see if you have any questions you want to ask Andrea or I. And you, young man, she said looking at Vanessa, have been very brave to go through all this girly nonsense here. It's time you went to do something more for boys and let us girls be girly here. She handed Vanessa some cash and told her to go to the arcade and play with the boys. This time, perhaps driven by boredom, Vanessa took her up on it. I guess she figured I was in too far to stop this now. And she was right. And so it was that perhaps out of boredom, or perhaps out of fear of being asked questions I needed to answer by my hairdresser, I started to read about how to curl your hair and look cute. It pierced through my pride like an arrow as I tried to focus and pretend that every you in the article could not possibly refer to me. I thought I had hit the bottom. I could not have known at that point, but I was far, far from the bottom. Jessica came back after what felt like forever. She opened a couple of the little envelopes here and there and said the color was taking quite nicely. She called out for Andrea to walk me over and get this washed out. This time I moved as fast as I could. I wanted this out of my hair. I wanted this all to stop. After a good rinse, she walked me back. I looked hard at the mirror, and although I could tell my hair had changed color, it did not look so bad. Of course, having never had blonde hair, I was not really thinking that the wet hair would look darker, especially with those darker layers below. It was around this time that Vanessa strolled back inside. I still do not know if she ran the cash out, or if she wanted to get back and see my suffering again. I know she walked right at me with her camera in hand. Jessica was drying my hair with the dryer while ruffling it around. As she did this, I could see it go lighter and lighter. She explained to me that it was important to get my hair about 3/4 of the way dry before she could actually style it. I was hypnotized by what was happening. I felt like I was becoming less and less of a boy as my hair grew drier and lighter. She stopped at this point and called Andrea over again. "Andrea, I know how much you are enjoying being a part of her experience, becoming a real teenage princess. Do you want to show her, quickly, how to use the curling iron before I style this fully?" At this point, I thought I was already numb to what was going on. I thought you could not make this any worse, but again I was wrong. Andrea proceeded to show me how to wind my hair around the curling iron, hold it there for a minute and release it by carefully spinning my wrists so as to unwind each curl carefully. She insisted that I do this myself. And that, right there, feminizing myself, doing this to myself in front of everyone and watching myself do it, that was where I again realized I had hit rock bottom. It was the most emasculating feeling I had ever had. I was literally doing this to myself. Vanessa made it no better by saying with a giggle, "You are amazing at that, it's like you have been doing it all your life," as she made a small video of it holding up her phone. Jessica quickly took over the situation by saying, "Okay, Miss Cheerleader, I know you are loving this, but you will, I sure, have a lot of this ahead of you now that we've actually made a girl out of you rather than that tomboy you were. But it is time to stop trying to make yourself pretty and let the pro do it even better." She said this with a giggle that pierced through my weakened ego. And so, she proceeded to blow out my hair. She again sectioned off my hair, and this time used butterfly clips to keep it out of the way as she worked on each section. She used a round brush and tugged at my hair while holding the nozzle of the hairdryer close to the brush as she slowly pulled away from my head, drying, straightening, and adding a shine to my hair as she did this. At the end of each strand that she straightened, she left a piece wrapped twice around the brush, held it there for a little while, and carefully removed the brush, reconstructing and securing the little tube of hair on the tip with a bobby pin. I watched in horror as my hair became beautifully straight, with the new shiny blonde sections above contrasting with the dark ones below to give even more of an impression of volume. The small curls on the end, held in place by bobby pins, hung on the end of each strand waiting to cool, Jessica explained. For the first time in a while, Vanessa sat there speechless, but somehow hypnotized by this. Once it was all over and my whole head of hair was straight and beautiful, Jessica started undoing each of the little clipped curls from the end of each strand. Slowly, a well-defined wave curling twice dropped loose from the end of each long and straight strand of hair. After she had released the last curl, she shook the waves lightly with her hand, loosening them up. For a more natural look, you see, and it also adds volume. This is what I like to call a bombshell blowout. The boys will go wild over you. Now for the final touch. You should be so thankful to your mom. These are gorgeous, she said as she slowly pulled my hair back away from my temple on the right-hand side and secured it there with the barrette she had showed me earlier, bunching some hair from the bottom upwards about halfway to my ear and 3/4 way up my head. A small ribbon-shaped clip covered in shiny pink crystals all over it highlighted my new femininity. She did the same on the other side. I stared at myself in the mirror. It was not me though. The color and volume of that mane around my head, and those straight bangs that made my eyes stand out, were not me. Jessica waved her arm around me as she discharged a can of hairspray all over me to hold it all in place. I then realized it was almost time to go. I had oddly prayed for this time to come quickly during the time I was here, but now I realized what I looked like. I was not ready to leave the safety of this place where I knew no one but Vanessa. How could I go outside? How could I walk back to Vanessa's? Who would we see on our way there? It somehow made it even more real that I was about to face life like this. My thought process was broken by Jessica and Andrea blabbing in high-pitched squeals around me about how gorgeous I turned out. I bet you did not know your friend could look so pretty. I hope you don't let her drift back into looking like a boy again. Jessica said, looking at Vanessa, to which she delighted in responding, how could she? Once you know you can look like that, how can you feel like a boy again? You've made a girl out of her finally. My eyes watered again as Andrea held up a mirror and let me see the V-shaped back of my long blonde hair ending in gorgeous waves below my shoulders. And so it was time to go. They walked me to the door and I dreaded every step towards that door as much as I had dreaded the steps in from it. The rest of the world was about to see me like this. I overheard a couple of women telling me I looked gorgeous and precious. Come back and see us. We loved making a proper girl out of you. But you shouldn't make your friend come with you again. This is no place for boys. He must have suffered so much sitting there reading those comics through all this girliness. Oh, and I hope you enjoy your curling iron, sweetie. Vanessa opened the door. The bright sunlight made me squint and I froze. She had to literally push me out the door. As the door closed behind us, she looked at me and said, "Oh my God, look what they did to you." Thank goodness it did not happen to me. I would not have taken that. Your hair looks like the most girly girl I have ever seen. I am so glad it was you and not me in that chair. I would never be the same again if it happened to me, but you had said earlier it was just a hairstyle, right? There is nothing to it, you said, right? I have no idea how you are going to go to school on Monday. I would not be seen dead like that, and people know I am a girl. But you, well, I guess if you were really a boy you would not have let any of this happen. You must have wanted this. That cut through me like steel and I swung at Vanessa, missing her pathetically. I tried again and she caught my hand mid-swing and squashed it. It hurt a lot. People passing on the street were slowing down to see what was happening. I did not want any more attention and stopped what I was doing and started walking. Feel better now, Samantha? Should we stop over at the arcade on the way home, chairgirl? My eyes widened and my stomach sunk. For the first time I really cried. Not just wet tears, but I actually cried. It was a quiet, terrifying and humiliating walk to Vanessa's house. Vanessa did not say anything more after I broke down in tears. Maybe what she had done dawned on her again, maybe she realized she pushed it too far, or maybe she had just got it out of her system. Whatever drove her to be silent, it worked, and I appreciated it. I walked past shop windows and cafes as the sun glistened of the windows, making them reflect my new look at me. It was alien to me. It was terrifying. One or two people walked past me and looked up with an inquisitive look. Oddly, no one looked at me, as I would have expected, with ridicule, disgust or anger, just quizzically. It was slowly dawning on me that they were not perceiving me as a boy with a girl's haircut. Those that looked were perhaps wondering why such a girly girl was dressed as I was, or maybe why my face was bare of any makeup and my ears not decorated. My hair moved strangely as I walked. It had a bounce to it that I could feel, and the bangs brushed my forehead just above my eyebrows as a constant reminder that they were there. A constant reminder of what I looked like even when I could not see it. My stomach hurt. The fast pace I had started out with, to get out of view as fast as possible, was slowing the further we went, and the more I realized that all the worry and stress and fear had drawn the fight out of me. Amongst many of the thoughts that crowded my mind, the recurring one was, what would my mother do? Her passion for my hair was such that I could not guess. Somehow, I felt that deep down she would be pleased for the new cut. It was she who insisted I keep it long, and it was she who took the time to brush it over and over again to make it shine as my sisters looked on, partly jealous of her attention, and partly happy they did not get the long nightly brushing routines. But would she be upset I let this happen? Would she be upset it was colored? Would she be upset that I had it cut without my permission? She was always threatening me with punishment every time I said I would cut it because I could not stand the teasing for having long hair, every time I complained about the constant attention she paid to it. But I knew that what would truly upset her would be for it to be short, not for it to have a different style. Deep down, this scared me most. How could I fix this if it was not made shorter? I was not sure that the feminine look would upset her. In fact, I kind of knew it would not. My memory went back to a few months earlier when I walked past her room as she was straightening my sister's hair. I stopped by the door quietly, I'm still not sure why, and looked inside. My sister looked bored, and my mom a little frustrated as she slowly took each strand of her thick curly hair and slid the flat iron down from the root to the tip slowly and mechanically. I could see the steam let off by the hair as the flat iron boiled the humidity out. Mom caught a glimpse of me standing at the door. When I realized she saw me, I walked on by, but she quickly called me. "Sam, come here." I did not want to, but knew I had no choice. I kicked myself for stopping at the door. Something told me this was not going to end well. I walked into the room hesitantly. "Come here," I said, she repeated a little more forcefully than before. "Come sit next to your sister." I did as I was told. She put the flat iron down on her vanity and ran her hands down my hair. It always amazes me how your hair turned out different to both your sisters. It is so straight and shiny and so full of volume. I hated hearing that, again and again. I think my sisters hated it too. I was staring at my sister next to me in the mirror and she was staring at me. She looked jealous and I looked embarrassed. You see why I am straightening your hair, Emily? Look how pretty this looks, she said as she pinched a section of my hair loosely between her middle finger and thumb about halfway down, lifting it to the level of my crown and letting it fall out of her grip slowly so that it cascaded back down, almost a strand at a time. Pretty. I hated that word. Here, let me show you what I mean, Emily. Sam, hand me that brush. My eyes widened as I looked at her in the mirror. Come on, the brush. My sister was just as close to it, but she was asking me. I did as I was told and handed her the brush. 1, 2, 3. She did that when she brushed my hair. She counted every stroke. Sometimes 40, sometimes 50. One night when I had thrown a particular fit about wanting my hair cut, she made it to 100, handed me the brush, told me to thank her, and then do 50 more myself. I had learned to sit still and say nothing to keep it from getting worse. I could tell my sister had a slight smile on her face. She got to 40 brush strokes and handed me the brush. She then slid both her thumbs, one either side just behind my ears, sectioning off the hair above that and bringing her hands close together, making a ponytail with the top half of my hair, which she held in her fingers. She lifted that with one hand and grabbed the brush from my hand, brushing what was left until it was as straight as possible and fanned out across my back. She handed me back the brush. Hand me a ribbon from the vanity, please. My sister reached out, enthusiastically wearing what was now a clear smile on her face. Not you, Emily. I am not doing your hair, I am doing your brother's hair, for you to see what yours can look like. He can help me do his hair for him, thank you. Fearing that this could get much worse if I did not do what she said, I slowly reached out to the vanity where she had a couple of ribbons. Did she not know how humiliating it was to help her do this to me? Maybe she did. Maybe that is why she told me to grab the ribbon myself. I took the blue one, avoiding the pink one, as if that made what was about to happen any better. I was going to use that one for Emily so she could match Nikki, who is wearing green. But you suppose it's blue for boy, is it? I did not answer. She took the ribbon from my hand and tied it into a bow, securing the top section of my hair. Emily, come here, stand behind your brother. See how pretty that is? I just love the way the ribbon looks behind the head, sitting atop a curtain of long, straight and shiny hair. Do you see why I said we should straighten your hair? Isn't that pretty? Emily responded, while trying to hold back her giggles, that it looked just so pretty. Okay, then sit still while I straighten your hair. She picked up the flat iron and sectioned off another section of Emily's hair. I hoped she was done with me, and I raised my arm to pull off the ribbon that was in my hair and bumped into her arm holding the flat iron as she was running it down Emily's hair. Watch what you are doing. I nearly burned myself and your sister. What are you doing, child? I told her I was going to take off the ribbon and go back to my room. You leave that alone. I did not go through all that for nothing. It looks lovely. I'm sorry, from Vanessa pulled me back from my painful memory in a quiet, somber voice. I pulled my gaze away from my dragging toes and looked in her direction. I said nothing, but the puzzled look on my face said it all. I am sorry about what I said outside the salon. I did not mean it. I don't know why I said it. I continued looking at her with a blank look. I guess I was somehow excited that it was finally someone else that was getting that treatment and not me. Just this one time it was not me, and you had no idea how bad it was. You hurt me earlier with your comment saying that it was just a hairstyle. It was not just a hairstyle, it was trying to change who I was. I was mad. I thought I had to make you understand, and I got carried away. Did she realize what she was saying and how absurd it sounded? I would never admit to her that I did, in fact, know what it felt like to some extent, and that my mother had made me go through the ribbon incident. The memory came back to me. That afternoon she made me leave it on for the rest of the day, much to the delight of my sisters who spoke of it permanently. But I also knew that what I had experienced once, maybe twice, was something that she went through often at her house. But she was a girl, I was not. It could not have been so bad for her, not as bad as it was for me. She had to understand that what she did to me was horrible. Didn't she? I had no idea it would be that bad. I could not have known it would be so irreversible. That last word hit me hard. Irreversible. I looked at the shop window I was walking past at that moment. A mannequin in a short skirt and pink top sported a blonde wig with bangs and a red lipstick-colored smile. There was just enough glare on the window that I could see my reflection by her. My bangs matched the mannequin's. The color matched the mannequin's. Irreversible. I am sure your mom is going to cut your hair and get it dyed back again. You'll get to look like a boy again. I am going to have to go through all that and then go to school. Every day. She paused. It still does not make it right though, I know. I could not tell her that I was afraid my mom would make me keep it. I could not admit to her that my mom would probably be happy. Strangely, after all that happened, I too was afraid of just how mad her mom would be at her. I just did not like to see people in trouble or even angry for that matter. Crazy now I think about it, I should have been looking forward to see her get what she had coming, and yet I did not. We had finally made it to her house. She opened the door and let us in. I was happy to not be outside, and for the first time in a while I relaxed. Only slightly though. I walked past a large mirror in the living room and looked at myself. I had seen myself in the salon, of course, but I still had not come to terms with this. How could I? My hair had large waves in it. Almost like I had walked right out of a shampoo commercial. The razor-sharp bangs cut across my forehead just above my eyes. The bright blonde color so alien to me, and the dark roots and dark layers underneath were so visible. I wanted to shave my hair off. I wanted to cry. Vanessa stood in the corner of the room and said nothing. Just at this point I heard a voice behind me. "Oh, it is beautiful. Absolutely beautiful, Vanessa. I can't wait to tell you Mom about it when she calls." I recognized Priscilla's voice. She had stayed over on weekends with us before. It was obvious that she could not see my face in the mirror and had presumed I was Vanessa. She had been told to expect Vanessa looking like this, I guessed. I turned slowly toward her and she gasped out loud and dropped whatever it was that she had in her hand. "Samuel? Is that you? You had your hair done too?" she said, slowing down as she worked her words out with a tone of astonishment and disbelief. Instead was all I could get out. Just one word. Instead. I don't know why I chose that word. I did not think that that word would give her the impression that this was voluntary. Instead? Where's Veronica? Did she not get her hair done? No, she responded quietly but in a matter-of-fact manner from the corner of the room. Priscilla turned and saw Vanessa, who looked much the same as she always did, in the corner of the room. "I don't understand," she said with her gaze switching quickly between Vanessa and I. "What did you do?" For some reason I could not say anything else. Vanessa, perhaps out of fear that Priscilla would call her mother now and anticipate what she had coming anyway, tried to push the lies further. He wanted to. My eyes glared open as wide as possible and I screamed, "You liar." She stood up and shot one of her nasty glares at me, then smoothed her tone and said, "You don't have to be embarrassed that you wanted to try it on your gorgeous hair. You were all brave about it in the salon and now you won't admit it? Priscilla is a girly girl. She gets it. It's not true. She made me do it. It's not true, not true." Priscilla approached me and hugged me. I didn't understand what was happening. "It's not true." She hushed me and held me tighter. She whispered in my ear, "It's okay. It's okay." I thought she understood. I relaxed a little. "There you go. It's okay. I understand." I was relieved. This was going to start to unravel finally. Vanessa was going to get in trouble and I was going to get out of this. It's okay. It must be terrible to want something so much and for people to not understand. You don't have to be shy, you are out now, sweetie. And you look so pretty, darling, it's okay. I am happy for you. No. She made me do it. She made me do it because she did not want to have it done to her. I tried to break free but she tightened her hug. You don't have to lie to me, sweetie. Come on, no boy lets anyone do this to them if they do not want it to happen. This must have taken hours. Of course you let them, of course you wanted it. Don't be shy. And now you did it, you should be proud. I was defeated, again. Broken, again. As for you, why did you not get your hair done like your mother told you, she said, in a much louder tone, now facing Vanessa. There was a brief moment of silence as Vanessa conceived where she was going next with this charade. He wanted it so badly, and I knew my mother had only paid for one style, so I let him have it done. It seemed to me to be his only chance and... Priscilla broke into a smile. That is so nice of you. I don't know what I am going to tell your mother, but I am proud of you. Let's just hope she does not call tonight. I'll think of something to help you both by the morning. Now let's go and sit down and put on a movie. You know, I was hesitating a little on Legally Blonde since I did not think a boy would enjoy it, but now I know you will just love it, and you, Vanessa, a little girliness every now and then won't hurt you. Especially as I do your nails like your mom asked me to. Wait, no, she said. No nails. What are you talking about? I am not wearing polish. Priscilla's tone changed quickly. Yes, you are. If you don't want me to call your mom right now and tell her what happened, you will help me. Can you imagine if she has to cut her golf weekend short because you were misbehaving? She told me to do this and I will keep up my side of the bargain. I smiled for the first time in a few hours. She picked up the box she had dropped earlier and told us both to sit down as she selected the movie and got it set up. Now, you can choose each other's colors. I was really not expecting to have 2 customers tonight. This is going to be more fun than I thought. With mine, that will be 30 fingers and 30 toes. Wait, what? I said as I gasped for air, realizing what she had said. No, I am not going to get my nails done, no way. Oh honey, I have told you I understand, and you do not need to keep this charade up with me. Someone who had bangs and layers cut in their hair and dyed it in such an amazing way is worried about polish, please. Now stop it, you two. I will count to 10 and you both better have chosen nice colors for each other. She opened her box and there were about a dozen bottles of polish in there. We both stared at the box and did nothing. 1, 2. Please, we both said, almost simultaneously. 3. She picked up her cell phone and voiced out Vanessa's mother's name as she pulled out the contact. I am a boy, I said. Is that what you were saying while she was styling your hair? While she was coloring it? 4. I cracked first. I pulled out something that I thought would not offend Vanessa too much. It was a very light lilac. I was looking for the least loud of all colors, the most discreet. I was still playing nice, and had no idea why. Vanessa was furious that I cracked. She looked at me and said, with a sense of authority, if I am wearing that then you are wearing this. I thought I knew what was coming. I looked at the delicate pink bottle in the box and cringed. It was a light pink, but it was pink. Alas, I was wrong. It could be worse, I found. She reached in and dug out a bright red. Like a Ferrari red. Oh, that will pop like your hair, Sam. Good choice, Vanessa. See, you do know something about this after all. I knew that would be visible from a huge distance. I looked down at my hands and feet. 10 fingers and 10 toes glistening in bright red. The funny thing about looking down at your fingers and toes is that you cannot really see the rest of you. And when you see your fingers and toes painted for the first time, it looks alien to you. It really felt as if I was looking down at someone else's fingers. I wiggled my fingers slightly to see if I could get my brain to connect the two. As much as I felt defeated and humiliated with the red nails, it felt worse to look down at them and feel they were not mine. I never thought what this looked like to Priscilla. The fact that I was looking down at them and wiggling them left the clear impression that I was admiring them. I realized this when she came up behind me and hugged me. It's okay. It's okay to love how they look. Not all boys are manly, some boys are girly, and that's okay. You were brave enough to take such a bold step with your hair. It is okay to enjoy it. The daggers just kept hitting me. I said nothing. What can you say when you are this far down the line? I looked across at Vanessa with her lilac nails. She had done this before. She was not staring at her nails like I was. She looked angry and frustrated, but not confused like I looked. Still, I could tell that this really did seem to upset her as much as it upset me. We both sat there quietly while Priscilla loaded a movie. Neither of us were at all thrilled about watching Miss Congeniality. Neither of us wanted to watch that, but in our own way we both sympathized with Sandra Bullock's character. And we were both equally puzzled that she seemed to grow into it. When it was time to sleep, I lay there thinking about what was ahead of me. How would my mother react when she saw me? Was I in trouble? How soon would I be able to get rid of this hair? Would my mom let me shave my head? How stupid would I look with a shaved head? What if she did not let me shave my head? Can we dye it back? Would I have to go back to that salon? What could we do about the girly bangs I now sported? The tears rolled down my face as I felt afraid of what lay ahead. Sorry. I looked over at the other bed in the room where Vanessa lay. I'm afraid too. My mom is going to kill me. I have no idea what punishment she will hold for me, but it will not be good. I should not have done this to you, but I could not bear the thought of having someone make me look like a girly girl. So you thought it was better for a boy to look like this? Is that what you thought? I hate you. She fell silent for a second. We had never really said something like that to each other, not in a tone that sounded like we meant it. I am sorry. I am sure your mom will let you get it all cut off tomorrow. I would have to keep it. It just seemed like a better solution. I did not think this through. Well, how about the humiliation of being a boy and having this done to you? Did you think about that? Did you think what this was doing to me? She responded the most baffling thing I could have heard. All along they thought you were a girl, no one was laughing at you. And the humiliation of being made to look girly was no worse for you than for me. I don't want to look like that. I think it looks stupid, and if they did it to me I would have to keep it. For you it will be gone tomorrow. My tears then grew to a sob. My words blurred into each other as my nose slowly went runny from the tears. I am afraid she won't. She won't let me cut my hair. She loves my hair and makes me brush it like I were a girl. Every night. What if she does not let me cut it? What then? Vanessa grew silent. It was evident that the fact that I may be forced to stay like this had never crossed her mind. The truth is it had not really crossed mine yet. I was trying to convince myself that I would be able to shave it off, or cut it short and dye it back. It was only talking to her that I realized that I may be stuck with the long hair and bangs. The best I could probably do is dye it back, and get rid of the curls. I could wear a cap, I guess, and keep it all hidden at school. We said nothing else that night as we both cried ourselves to sleep. Morning, my beauties! Priscilla's bubbly voice filled the room as she pulled back the curtain, letting in the light. My eyes quickly blinked closed and slowly opened, letting my sight adapt to the brightness. My beauties. Ugh. I need to get going soon, but I want to make sure I help you do your hair this morning. I mean, this one here is not going to help you with that, are you, Miss Tomboy? I got that painful feeling deep in my gut again. Somehow, I knew she did not mean to hurt me, but she was hurting me again and again. No. I said. She had a blank look on her face. I realized I had snapped and felt bad. There is no need, thank you. I'll be fine, I said, somehow trying to make it better. Nonsense. It has been a long time since I have seen something as pretty as what you had, and if you are going to come out to your mom, we should get it looking nice again. It is all squashed down by your pillow. Now come on. No, please. I don't want to. I looked at her with a pleading look. Sweetie, there is no need to be shy now. There is nothing more to hide. Look at your bright red beautiful nails, your blunt bangs, and those most striking highlights. You've done it, darling, you are out, and you should love it. Come on. I will not take no for an answer. And you, Vanessa, you come and watch. You need to learn, because I am sure that your mom will send you right back to the salon to get the same hairstyle, and you need to know what to do. It takes high maintenance to look as good as Sam does. Begrudgingly I got up in my boyish pajamas, and as I looked down at my feet to find my slippers, I saw my red nails and my now blonde and curly hair slip over my shoulder and hang there in my peripheral vision. This was like a bad dream that just kept going. I walked slowly to Vanessa's mom's bathroom, where Priscilla seemed to have laid out the torture devices. Facing the large mirror was a stool, and on the sink were a hairdryer, a curling iron, a couple of brushes, and a can of hairspray. Next to that was the little barrette that had been in my hair the day before, that final little stab to my manliness. Sit down, princess. And you sit there and learn, Vanessa, she said, pointing at the edge of the built-in bathtub just in my field of view. And so she proceeded to brush, and then curl my hair. All the while she would be telling me how she was jealous of this wonderful hair that I had. You know, with hair like this, it's no wonder you wanted to be a girl, you were born to look like this. Every step, she would talk through, teaching me, and Vanessa at the same time, neither of whom was interested and both of whom dreaded the whole thing. This all lasted at least 40 minutes and ended with the crowning touch of the shinning barrette and a few generous sprays from the can of hairspray which loft in the extra volume that she had brought back, replicating quite beautifully what Jessica had done yesterday. It was clear that the shape and curls were here to stay. At this point she told Vanessa that she had to do something to her hair or her mother would be too upset. I gladly jumped out of the seat and Vanessa, perhaps realizing this was the safest course of action at this point, begrudgingly sat in the chair. I started to walk away when Priscilla grabbed my arm and said, "Oh no you don't." Priscilla left mid-morning. This time Vanessa would never have gotten away with trying to pretend she was a boy. She sat there sulking with her fingers and toes painted lilac and her hair a mass of curls. Much to both of our horror, she had me do most of the curling of Vanessa's hair under close supervision. The scolding looks Vanessa was giving me did nothing to help the terrible humiliation of being a boy playing makeover with his friend. She had most of it down with the top layer tied in the back with a lilac ribbon that matched her nails. Priscilla was so happy she had found that. Priscilla warned Vanessa that it would very much be in her best interest to leave her hair alone. She was in enough trouble already, at least by keeping this she may show her mom that she regretted what she did to some extent. As for myself, the little ribbon-shaped barrettes were back in my hair. Priscilla had made sure that I put them in place. She kept making me do it until I got it right. "You have to learn how to do this right, you know." The brightness coming in through the windows at noon was making my blonde color shine. I stared at the mirror incredulously. How could all this have changed so quickly? The only solace was that I was back in my boy clothes. I felt some of dignity was restored when I put them on, but looking in the mirror and seeing my hair and nails mismatching my clothes made me look like a cross-dressed girl. Vanessa's mom and my mom were together in the car as they drove up to the house. They were smiling and laughing after what had obviously been a relaxing and fun weekend golfing. We could hear them in the distance as Vanessa's mom said to mine that she just could not wait to see what Vanessa's hair looked like. "I've been waiting for this for a long time." I could not wait any longer and had to get a little forceful about it. I was honestly expecting a call from my hairdresser Jessica saying that she had thrown a fit and not gone through with it. But neither she nor Priscilla called, so she must have gone through with it. Which is for the best. I would be furious if she had not. Vanessa cringed as she heard that last part. "You are lucky, you know," my mom says. Vanessa was blessed with pretty hair and you will finally be able to enjoy it like you and I did when we were cheerleaders in high school. It was so wonderful to brush out and curl and adorn our long hair. You got a daughter that will be able to do that. My daughters both have tight curly hair, which is very cute I guess, but there is only so much you can do. The gorgeous head of hair ended up on Samuel. They reached the door, and I could think of nothing else but to hide. I ran into Vanessa's room and left her in the living room to face whatever it was that was coming her way. I was delaying the inevitable, I suppose, but I could not quite face up to it. "What did you do?" was all I heard. It was a stern, angry punctuated statement in a very loud voice. "This is not what I sent you to Jessica's for." "What is going on?" "I told her to call me if you did not show up." "I did go," Vanessa answered quietly. "Well, then why did she not do what I paid her to do? Don't tell me she made a few little curls in your hair and took what I paid her for." "I am so mad." "Why did she not do what I asked her to do, Vanessa?" "She did," Vanessa almost whispered. "What do you mean she did? I can see she didn't. You have no bangs and your hair is still dark. I must say those curls are new to you, but I can tell they were done by a girl and not a hairdresser." You tell me what is going on now, Vanessa. The remark about a girl doing her curls cut deep. Come on, Vanessa, what the hell is going on here? Tell me. So, she did. She told her that Jessica had done everything that she asked. Just not to her, but to me. You could have heard a pin drop. It was a minute that felt like 5 before I heard my mother ask her to repeat that. And she did. After another moment of silence, I heard a dreaded, "Samuel, get out here now." I walked slowly into the living room with my hands covering my face. I heard a gasp from Vanessa's mother, and after another moment of shock and silence, my mother said, "Take your hands away from your face. I want to see that pretty hairstyle you had it done, now you own it." I lowered my hands but looked down at my toes. "Chin up, Sam. I want to see it all, proudly. Come on now, as proudly as you must have been in the salon getting pampered. After all the hell you give me about wanting to cut your hair, you go and do this? You go and make yourself look like Farrah Fawcett? And with red fingernails?" I tried to tell her that Vanessa made me do it. Vanessa's mother looked mad and knew Vanessa had something to do with it. My mother, on the other hand, was focusing on me. "Well, I must say it looks beautiful. I do not know what your friends will think about it in school tomorrow, but I love it. Your sisters will be so jealous." I tried to react and say that I needed it cut, but my mother cut me off. "That's enough. We are leaving now to Jessica's to get this fixed," I heard Vanessa's mom say to my greatest relief. It was only when she turned to my mother and asked if we were coming too that I realized that she meant getting Vanessa's hair fixed, not mine. Still, I was pleased to hear my mom say we were coming too. It would be terribly embarrassing to walk in dressed as a boy with this hairstyle and have them remember everything they did. But I reasoned someone had to cut it all off. I begged to have the nail polish removed before we left. "Absolutely not. You did choose it. You sat there quietly while Priscilla put it on you. You wear it proudly." After a call to Jessica, she told us that we had time to have a quick bite to eat. It was a very silent meal where there was a lot of stern staring and not much talking. I tried to take the barrettes off and hand them back to Vanessa, saying they were hers. Almost simultaneously, both moms said no, that these were now my pretty barrettes and that I would wear them out today. We all walked out together after eating. I wished every paving stone would swallow me as I stepped on it. All eyes were truly on me, dressed the way with the most girlish of hairstyles. When we arrived at the salon, it seemed everyone had already been briefed. Everyone, customers included, turned to look at the door. Andrea walked up to me and said, quite loudly, "I could have never guessed that you were a boy yesterday when you sat in that chair curling your own hair so delicately with me, and then sitting there quietly reading a teen girl magazine while Jessica worked her magic. I must say though, preferred your outfit yesterday." In the meantime, Vanessa was whisked over to the sink to get her hair prepped for most of what I had done. Our mothers announced that they were going shopping and that we should both stay here and behave. They sat me in the middle of the salon and turned the chair to face Vanessa. This meant that I was facing the door, and that everyone who walked in had a full view of me in that chair with that hairstyle. Mom made sure that the purse that Vanessa was forced to carry to the salon was on my chair, and that I put on the flip-flops that were in my bag so everyone could see my toes. Several people whispered to each other as they walked in and saw me, and some were more blatant about it and talked out loud or asked who the sissy was. Jessica was happy to introduce me as the boy who wanted to look pretty. The worst was a mother and daughter who came in for a cut and style and brought the brother in tow. The poor boy looked miserable enough to be there in the first place. "Why could I not stay with my brothers?" he asked, in a whiny tone. "I have said you cannot stay with the boys. You got hurt the last couple of times, you just can't keep up with them, precious." When they saw me, they immediately exclaimed, almost in unison, how precious I looked. Their brother, Paul, was told to sit next to me as he waited. I noticed that although his fingernails were not painted, they were long and oval, and were a little too shiny. When he saw me looking, he curled his fingers under on his lap and looked away in embarrassment. His sister insisted during the whole time that they were there if the same could be done to her brother. The poor boy was mortified. His mother kept telling her to be quiet, followed by a relieved look from the boy. However, after an hour of insistence from the sister, the mother finally gave in somewhat and quietly asked Jessica's assistant Andrea to do his hair. He protested, and his mother excused herself from Jessica's chair and took him to the back. We heard a couple of slaps, shouts, and some crying muffled by the door of whatever small room they found back there. A very teary little boy with a red face walked out, rubbing his evidently very sore bottom, and took a seat beside me. His mom stared at him until he asked, in the lowest volume he could muster, that Andrea make him pretty, please. His mom smiled and went back to her styling chair. His hair was shorter than mine, only just above his shoulders. She blow-dried it straight and curled all the ends under all around. Because he had no bangs, she used a couple of bobby pins to open up an elegant V shape on his forehead, framing his face with the long strands that dropped down and curled under his chin. Differently to mine, this would wash out, but I knew what he was feeling. He could not look at himself. When she finished, his mom, who had just finished having her hair done too, walked up to his sister and asked if she could borrow her purse. Confused, his sister handed her the pink purse. She handed it to the poor boy and said, "You are going to carry this purse home. This is because you made such a fuss. I cannot stand crybabies and kids that do not do as they are told. And if you give me any more trouble, you are going to school with it tomorrow to match your new hair." He made Paul thank Andrea so much for making him look pretty. He stared at me as if to place all the blame for what he had gone through, and was still to go through on me. I felt worse than I had before. He walked out defeated. His sister elated. Vanessa went through much the same ordeal I went through the day before, and apart from the barrettes that she was spared from because they were only for the girliest of the two of us, we looked like twins, at least as far as our hairstyle was concerned. At that point, I was shocked to see our mothers getting ready to leave. I cried out, "But what about me? Aren't they going to cut my hair and fix the color?" They both looked at me with a look of surprise. "What? After what we paid? Oh no, you wanted it, you're keeping it." And I liked what Paul's mom said. "If you complain, this will be getting worse." I could not envision worse, not I feared it. I fell silent, in the hope that at night we would just shave everything off when we were over it. Maybe she just wanted to see what my sisters would say. Mother exchanged contacts with Paul's mom as they walked out, and agreed that they needed to arrange a play date for us. Paul's sister very helpfully suggested the cheer hair club that her and her cheerleading friends hold on Saturdays to learn and practice new styles. Paul's mom said we had to get together, and only barely dismissed what his sister said by saying it would depend how he behaved. She pushed him out the salon saying, "Let's go and pick up the boys. Your brothers have been too long at the arcade." Oh boys. That must have added insult to injury. He wasn't considered one of the boys as far as his mom and sister were concerned. Before we left, my mom asked what time they open tomorrow. Jessica said they normally open just before 7 on Mondays since there are so many professional ladies who want to freshen up their look before a business trip. "Perfect," she said, "pencil me in." I really hope she truly meant her, but my stomach was sinking.